Hello to all those popping in. I know there was some confusion there. Sorry about the extra link. Um, in short, I just wasn't able to control the meeting at all, so would have been very uneventful if I was just talking with nothing to show. So we're just gonna sit tight for a couple of minutes while everyone gets moved over, and anyone that was unable to join is hopping in. I put a tentative start time in the window for 12:20, but we might start a few minutes before then if I see the numbers increase. Just in case it wasn't stated, in this meeting style, I'll have it muted to start. We'll go through the main portion of the prop data training, and then I will open up microphones for Q&A and stuff towards the end. If in between you have any questions that you want to make sure I get to, maybe you have something in between but you don't want to interrupt, you can use the chat or Q&A sections of Teams just to have those ahead of time. Just have it sit there, and then I'll go through them when we get to that stage. But again, just sit tight for a few moments while we get everybody switched over, and we'll start shortly. Thank you. And a few others that just joined in, just sit tight for us for a few moments while people get moved over, and then we'll get started. And I'll give my little starting spiel again that I did for the first group that showed up here first. But again, just sit tight and we'll start shortly. Right. It is about 12:20. I do see that there are a few people that have not migrated over yet. But what we will do is just get started, and then depending on when they join in, I will do another little preamble for them towards the end if there's anything they missed. So all that aside, welcome to the resident training here for Reflection Isles. Again, I apologize for the technical difficulties. Um, in short, I just did not have any meeting controls, so I wouldn't be able to share or present for you. So that's why we're migrating to here. To keep in mind for how the meeting style goes, when I run them is I will have you muted for now. We'll go through the general overview, and then I will open up the floor for questions. At that time, we'll do two things. You can use the hand raise feature instead of Teams, and I'll allow you to unmute if you'd like to verbally ask your question, or you can type them in the chat or Q&A sections, and I'll go through those as well. I did see that someone already had placed a question, so I'll make sure to go through those after we get through again the main portion here. For everyone here, my name is R. DeRosiers. I'm our systems engineer over here at SafeTouch, and I'm going to be going through this training with you today in place of Elise, who is unavailable at this time. Oh, more people keep popping in. It's good it's at the start, then we don't have to do a lot of reading. At this time, I have my screen shared, and you'll see a coming soon sign with a meeting will begin at 12:20. Obviously, this is just for show, so you have something to look at in the meantime, but it does have a QR code. There's a slim chance you might have felt curious and scanned it. Whether you did or did not, this is the page it would bring you to. It's just a little welcome portal that we had. As a video from our former CEO, just talking about the system and showing you an example for your visitors. We also had an example here of what the welcome email will look like, which you should have already received. Um, it'll have your name, the email that you used, and a temporary password. You'll click that Get Started button. It'll bring you to the login.proptia.com page, and then you'll use that temporary password and make your own. Again, a large portion of you might have already done so, but if you have not, that is something to look out for. Double check your spam folder. It will come from a do not reply at proptia.com. Actually, I think they updated it to no reply, proptia.com. But the title will be Welcome to Proptia. Let's get started. If you have not received that welcome email, you've checked your spam, you've gone through all the motions, you have a couple options. I'm going to put this link in the chat for you for this page, but you can reach out to Aaron at your property. The other option, though, of course, is that there's a link to a form here. I will again put this in the chat. That form will basically let you fill out information and submit it. We'll forward that over to Aaron in like a grouping. That way it can get added accordingly. Could be something simple like a typo in the email. That's the most common if there is a problem. But that way we can just make sure that your information is correct. Now, once you are able to get started, follow that link and set up your password, you're going to be brought to the Proptia dashboard. Oh, 1 second, just gotta admit somebody. There we go. So when you first log in, you will be presented with this welcome screen and a link for a quick start guide. That link will send you here to a PDF that just goes over a few more pieces of information. Another welcome letter, if you will, just going through different portions and explaining some of the processes. So for example, it talks about the welcome email, what you're looking for, how to download the app. You will get a link for the app in your welcome email as well, but in case you missed it, or if it's easier to come here, you can do so. Keep in mind that they have made a change. This is relatively new, where the app is no longer just a searchable option in the Apple Store for iOS, but you can get it through this link. Basically, it's just how the Apple Store works. They've been cracking down on how apps work that have an external login process. So, in short, follow the link and you can get to that app. If you need assistance with that, I'll show you how you can submit a ticket, and we can make sure that you get that easily. 2, 1. To those that just joined, because I know there were a couple, we haven't gotten too far in, but I can always circle back afterwards. In short, microphones will be disabled during the overview, and then I will get to the Q&A where we can open them up. If you have any questions, we'll do the hand raise feature. You can also type questions while I'm going through in the Q&A or chat, just in case you want to get that out there so you don't forget your question. And then we'll get to those after we go through the rest of the overview. Back to on hand. So again, with this welcome letter, the get started message, we have a couple links to some training videos, which I'll show you another way to get to. How to add your visitors. It goes over that in a little bit of detail, which again, we're going to talk about today. If you ever want to get back to that quick start guide, once you're logged in the top right next to the submit ticket button, you'll see help and you'll see quick start guide. And you can go through that and get right back to that PDF. Also up there, though, you'll see this one titled Training Videos. This one will bring you here, which will have a bunch of short form videos, roughly 3 to 5 minutes apiece, going over various topics that we're going to go over today. Obviously, there's frequently asked questions, but maybe it's how to add your visitors. Again, we will be going over that, but if you ever need a refresher, this is a great place to go. So submitting a ticket, changing your password, etc. Now, though it lands you right at your dashboard when you first log in, which is like the meat and potatoes of everything, right? This is where you'll add your visitors. We do want to stop by first the My Account section at the bottom. Now, if you are very zoomed in, you may need to scroll this sidebar, just as something to keep in mind. I will do an example of that now by scrolling in a little too far, apparently. But if you are zoomed in just for any special need, you can just scroll on this as well. Zoom back out for now. But we're going to go down to the My Account section. Here, we just want to verify that things are correct. That way it's taken care of at the start, and then if anything does need to change, it can be fixed. That way the database stays clean and accurate. So on this first page, it's going to show you the property that you're at. If you're an occupant owner, a non-occupant owner, and tenant. What these basically mean is that you own it and you live there, you own it and you don't live there, or you are a renter. Under personal details, you have the option to edit quite a few options here. In short, you cannot change your email address or resident ID, but you can say update your first and last name in case you had any spelling errors. It does happen. We're all human. You can also add your phone numbers. We have fields for cell phone, work phone, home phone, or an alternative. If you do add more than one number, you can set that call priority. And this is basically just the preference order that you would receive a phone call from our virtual guards when you do have a visitor. We do recommend to have at least one phone number because the default action is if they are not on your guest list, is that you will receive a phone call to get authorization for that person to enter. So if you do not have a phone number, they won't be able to call you and your guest will be denied. If you do make any changes, don't forget to hit the save button. In my case, I did not make a change, so we'll move on through. We can skip account details for your setup and we'll go right to notification settings. Notifications are going to be texts or emails based off of a couple different actions in the software. So the most common setup I see is you'll see this one, check to receive notifications for all visitors to the property. Your owners, so this is going to again be people who own the property and live there or don't. You might want to have this one checked off. This would mean that you will receive a notification for any visitors, even if they're not your personal visitors. So if there's someone else at the residency, you might want to get a notification for their visitor coming by. For visitor process, this means that they have come to the gate and they have either come through with the automatic license plate recognition or they've stopped at the kiosk and spoke with a guard or used a QR code for the ePass reader. Basically, any way that they got verified approved access, this would send you a notification. I usually see people have this as a text just because you might be out and about or mowing the lawn and you might want to know that right away. The next one here, though, is for visitor registration. If it is enabled, I usually see it as an email. This is mostly going to be for clerical reasons. You might just want to keep a record of it. But this would be a notification saying, "Hey, you've added, John Smith as a guest to to your property." If you are getting notification though for all, you might be interested in that. But it's up to you on these. You can check them on or off, save it, and make your changes at any time. The third one here for the expiring credential, just keep this one blank. I can't remove the option, but it does not apply in your situation. Now, if you do want to get a text message, an important part is having a phone number in the cell phone field on that personal details page. If you do, you'll see it here in the dropdown, and then you pick your provider. All major providers are listed. If you do have a situation where you're not seeing one, double check with them first. For example, Spectrum uses Verizon towers. So you won't see Spectrum listed, but you will see Verizon. But again, if there is an issue or you're not seeing yours, or if you have any questions or comments on it, feel free to use that submit ticket button. And we'll go over that in a second to go in more detail. But just keep in mind you can submit a ticket about that for any assistance. Since I did make changes here, I will hit save. We get the notification of success, which is good. Our next bubble here lets us change the password. Now, this is assuming you were able to log in the first place and then be able to come here to update your password. If you are unable to log in, maybe you don't remember your password anymore, if you go to the main site of login.proptia.com, you can click the forgot password option. What it will ask you to do is enter your email address that was for your account, and it will send you a new temporary password to basically go through the first process again. So you'll log in with that temporary one and then create a new password. Both here and on the forgot password page, there will be a little question mark that goes over what the requirements are. Basically, it's 8 characters, one uppercase, one lowercase, a number, and a special character. Pretty common requirements. But in case you're not getting a proper save, double check these. And the last section for additional information is not used here, so we'll just hit next through and hit update since I did make a change. And then that will update our account. Now, again, the purpose of this is we just want to make sure that the simple information is accurate. So we have a way to reach out to you from a guard standpoint, as well as your information being right in, for record keeping purposes. Now going up from there, contacts right now might be empty. Yeah, it is. Once we get to a live standing, you'll see the phone number here for our virtual security guard support line. Just in case you ever need to call in, need help, that will be here. Next from there, we have operations. This is where you'll see any tickets you have submitted and what their status is. They can either be open, which means they are um, available to be worked on, that they've been received but not necessarily in process. Then you have in process, which means that someone is working on it, and then there is closed, which means it has been completed. To submit a ticket, we'll hit that purple button in the top right corner that says submit ticket, and we can choose from a few different categories. So I told you before, as we're doing my account, that you can't update your email address. So in that example, if you would like to do that, what you can do through your ticket is go down to profile update request and click update email ID. And then from here in your description, just give the information that's necessary. So for example, you can say my email is currently blank. I'd like it changed to blank, and hit submit, or in this case, save. That will go to your property management as well as us, and it will be taken care of. If you do change your email, keep in mind you will get a new welcome email. But there are other things on here, such as having an issue with your credentials to get in the gate. Because again, from a resident perspective, that process does not change. There's issues here on things for like the property, a software or app. These obviously are going to go to us, not to your property manager. And there's also some for like a gate issue and other things. So depending on your topic, you'll have your category, you'll have a couple different topics to pick from. If whatever one you have can benefit from a picture, you can click the little camera here to add a picture to it, and then hit save once you're all set. Next up from there, we have the pet section. It's a nice little break from all the monotony. People love to show off their pets. But the main purpose for this is that if you do have an animal that gets loose on property, people can help them get home. Now, in a general sense, this isn't auto shared. It will only be visible by your property management team unless you check off the display in public pet directory button. If you do, any information you put on this specific page will be available. So obviously, please keep in mind you don't want to put too many personal details, but you can put information about the pet. If we click on community pets, we can see that some people have already clicked that little checkbox and are sharing their pets. So it's always fun to see everyone's furry friends. Going up from there, we're going to skip credentials, go right to residents. This is going to show you anyone who lives at this address and what type they are. So if they are an owner, if they're a tenant, an associated resident, and I'll get into those in a second. But basically, whatever they are, you'll see them listed. Now, owners and tenants cannot modify each other, but it does work hierarchy down for associated. So associated residents are going to be anyone that's in at the property that lives there, but is not an owner or a tenant. So that can be a child, a spouse, a caregiver, many different options depending on your situation. And you can add those yourself. So if we are on this page, we can hit add in the top right corner and enter this information. So we have, just like your main account page, a first and last name, an email address if you want them to have a visitor list. I word it that way because if you do have, say, younger kids that you don't want to have their own guest list for now, you don't need to worry about an email, so they don't need to log in. A phone number, again, if you they can be reached for someone stopping by the gate. Relationship to primary, again, you have many options like spouse, partner, etc. If you have an option that you need on here that you don't see, feel free to submit a ticket and we can make the adjustments. And then you'll have two checkboxes. One allows the user to see other people at the property from this page. Still can't edit them, they would just get to see. And then the second one allows the user to have a visitor list. So these are changeable at any time. So you could say, make John Smith, give him an email, put everything in here, but maybe don't allow a visitor list at the start, and then come back here and change that later. The vehicle section, this is primarily just for residents, this section. This is just for logging purposes. That way your property managers have a vehicle to assign to your stickers for your transponders on your vehicle. That's the only purpose for this section. I don't believe it has been stated as a hard requirement from Aaron at this time, but I'll get confirmation on that. We can reach out. It doesn't hurt to add it though, because that way they can, if there's ever an issue with your vehicle going through the gate, they can get that information from the cameras and assist with anything. Maybe there was damage or an accident. And that brings us back up to the dashboard, and we'll finally go over the visitor management portion, which is the main part of this. Now, as I alluded to a few times throughout up to this point, your entry as residents does not change. You'll still be using the same tags that you had. You'll still be doing your normal day-to-day operations, but your visitors, however, is what's getting the major overhaul. So everything I'm going to talk from this point on applies specifically to your visitors. So we're going to go through adding one here so I can show you what that process is. In the top right, we're going to hit add visitor. Give me 1 second. So once we're on this page, we have three options at the top. You'll see temporary visitor, permanent visitor, and restricted person. I'm going to go over restricted person first because it's the quickest. So a restricted person is a deterrent at best. So what I mean by that is if you have John Smith on your restricted persons list and they come to visit you and they stop at the kiosk and tell the guard, hey, I'm John Smith, I'm here to visit Arda Rogers at such and such. If they are on the restricted list, they would be denied entry to visit you. That being said, if John Smith has multiple friends in the community and is there to visit, Cindy down the lane, um, and they are on Cindy's list, and that's who they stated they're there to visit, they would be allowed in. So again, it is a deterrent. If there is a situation that goes beyond that that you need to take care of, please reach out to your property management, and we can work on more formal rules in situations that need it. To add someone to this list, you just add their first and last name and any other additional information you have that you'd like to share. If this is someone that you already had on your guest list that you're migrating over, maybe it was like a vendor or something, you can take it from existing and then choose from your list and bring them over. Next, we'll go into permanent visitor. This is going to be your probably your most common type, but these are going to be for guests or vendors that you want to be able to visit you frequently and often. So to go with some terminology here, a guest is going to be like friends and family. A vendor is going to be like a company. So that could be a lawn care service, delivery service, something else. Now to keep in mind for vendors, you do not need to worry about what we call multi-site marked vehicles, such as UPS, USPS, etc. Those are allowed in as a community rule because they handle multiple locations. So it's not always just for one spot. But if you have a specific thing, so for example, a while back I was using Factor Meals. They used VHO for shipping, which basically was just people could like Lyft or Uber, could just do courier service for VO. So in that scenario, I needed to add VO to my list because it wasn't a common service that everyone was using. So if you have anything like that that applies, feel free to use the vendor section. For both on the permanent section, you have one pass type. The pass type is going to be a permanent guest or permanent vendor if under vendor. Your guest details for your friends and family, again, guests, you'll use a first and last name. If you have their license plate, you can enter it. Keep in mind, if you do add a license plate, it is no special characters, like no spaces, no dashes, just alphanumerics. So for example, if I had someone coming through that had the license plate of 111-222, I would just put it in as 111-222. Though this is permanent, you can still be selective on the days. So for example, if I wanted this guest that we're going to make, and I'll actually put this through, I'll do a coworker of mine. If I want to actually put this through, maybe I don't want Chris to be able to visit me on Wednesdays. So I can uncheck this. And now what can happen is Chris can come to visit any time of day, any day of week, except Wednesday. Now they can still stop at the kiosk and get the approval in the normal non-automated fashion, but um, that would just be something that's outside the norm. So I would have checked on, I would only check off things if you're sure you don't want them visiting those days. And then under your start date, you can change this on a permanent pass. So you can set this in the future if you want to say just get ahead of it. But you'll notice you can't change the end date. You will notice also the end date is the same as your start date, but you will also see this a approved through section. So to give some context on how permanent passes work, they are 1-day passes. However, they will automatically renew as long as your guest has a valid visit anytime within the past year. So what that means is if we made this today, we made Chris today, and Chris can start visiting me any day of the week, all the time. But let's say, so if we fast forward to December, right, we'll just pick an arbitrary date. Let's say he doesn't visit me until December 1st. What will happen is he will get approved through, and then that approved through date is going to update to December 1st of 2025. And then once it, say it comes next July, it'll update again to another year from then. So it'll constantly update. But the benefit is it does give some auditing to the system where if you have someone not visit you for an entire year, they'll just go into the expired status. You can always remake them. No harms there. Just so we have an example, I'll save this so we can take a look at that at the dashboard real quick. And we'll see here where we first logged in that we see Chris, we see that they are permanent, and we see their start date. So you have some nice information right available to you on the dashboard. But I'm going to click back into Chris, and I'm going to show you how easy it is to edit one, and we're also going to change this around a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and hit edit in the top right. And in this case, since Chris is my coworker, but that means we work at the same company. So I'm going to put him in as actually a vendor instead. So we'll choose vendor, permanent vendor. And then you'll see that we don't actually need a first and last name anymore. We can still enter it if we have it, but what's really important is the company name. And the reason for that is that you might put in a vendor, but there's no guarantee that they're all going to show in the same vehicle, right? Or the same person is going to show up every time. It might be, a company with several technicians or several individuals or several vehicles. So in this situation, we ask for the company name because there's a chance that maybe it's not Chris Beck that comes this time and maybe it is Elise. So in that situation, you're still allowing the company, in this case, SafeTouch, to come by or whatever vendor you put in. Otherwise, all your stuff is still the same. Vendors do default to a 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday. I'll show you where you can go beyond this if needed. I'm not going to bother saving because we don't need to go to the next step. So now we're going to go over to what temporary visitors are. So temporary visitors are very similar. The main difference is that they are just not a permanent situation. All of them are going to be shorter durations. You'll see here that we have a guest day pass, week, month, and one time. Um, they're pretty self-explanatory. A month can be up to a month, so you can make it less if you'd like. A week can be up to a week, where you can also shorten that. But a day and a one-time pass, their difference comes down to a day pass allows in and out privileges all day. So if you wanted them to come by on a Wednesday, they can come in, visit you, say go shopping with you for a bit, and come back, no problems, because they're still on your list. A one time, however, means that once they come in once, their pass is no longer valid, and they would have to get reapproval the next time. The one time is very good for the short durations, maybe a gathering or an Uber, things like that. But both the one day and one time passes have the ability to use QR codes or e-passes. Those are synonymous with each other. I'll go over that though in a moment. So for this example, I'll just start with month. We'll see all the same options we did before. We can change the end date though in this situation because with a month it's up to. So since there is a known end date, we can change it. And you'll see the approved through date matches the end date in this case. If we switch this down to vendor, we'll see again, company becomes a required field. And then we have a few different passes, at least name wise. So week, month, and day all still apply the same as one time. But we also have this one called one time 24/7. So this allows your vendors to show up any day of the week at any time once, based off of your need. You might have like an emergency service needed on like a weekend, or some change there. So this one also allows the use of e-passes. Now to do that, I'm going to actually go back to guest for when I save this for a future need. But I'll say Chris back in here. We're going to go guest and we're going to go day pass. I'm going to add his email in here, but you could put your own if you don't have theirs. And go ahead and hit save. Might have actually made the change already. Let me check. Interesting. Pardon me for one quick second. Okay, that's on me. I apologize again to all the fun this morning. So under normal conditions with your one day and one time passes, they will have a send e-pass button here. I just need to enable that feature. I apologize. But where you will also be able to see it, if we hit save here, is on your dashboard. You'll see this e-pass section. So once I enable that button, again, my apologies, you'll see a send e-pass button here. You can just click that link and it will send them an email. What it'll contain is an image that has a QR code and the information for you. So it'll be the host that they're visiting, the address they're going to, and that will show up for them to be able to scan and present at the kiosk. How that works is there is a scanner that will be at the kiosk. They will still have to stop at it, but they don't have to sit there and talk to a guard. They would be able to just scan that pass and go through. But again, those are going to be for 1 day and one-time passes only. Back here at the dashboard, oh, actually, sorry, there's one more type of pass I almost forgot to go over. So if we go back into a new one under temporary, we have registration type where we can change this to event. So this is going to be if you have a party or gathering that you're hosting. It's a different way to put this information in. It'll show as a widget in the top right corner for our guards. Basically just helps with planning and dealing with traffic at the gate. So as we're going through here, we can either do a new list, which we'll type in here. You also have the option to import from Excel, which will give you a template that you can fill out and then send back in. Or if you've had the event before with the same guest list, you can use previous list and import that information. In this example, I'll do new list and I'll just do test event 1. This title though is what you would want your guest to be using. So if it's Harry's, 40th birthday party, if it's a housewarming, whatever it's going to be, you want to put that here in the title. And then we would just add the names. So in this case, I'll do Chris, and I'll also add just guys. I'll just do those two for now. But you would add as many people as you plan to allow in. I recommend that if you have a list that's more than, say, 5 people, you might want to do the import because it might be faster for you, but it's really your preference. From there, we choose the date of the event. I'm going to leave it today so it just auto expires. We'll put the time. So this is going to be your start time. Now I recommend that, let's say your event is at 1. You might want to say start letting people come in as early as 12:45. It's up to you of how much or sooner. But the from time is the earliest you would like someone to be allowed through the gate for this event. And then your 2 is the last time you want someone to be able to come through for this event, which usually is the end time. It matches up, but there's a chance you might want to shorten or lengthen this accordingly. If you are happy with your settings, you can go ahead and hit save. And now I'll show you where those live. So we made Chris, right? We've did Chris both as a vendor. We've done him both temporary, permanent, and also just as a normal guest. And he'll show on your dashboard. But for the events, which we just went over, those will be here on the event tab. So we'll see the title of the event and the people listed for that event. You also have a couple other tabs here. Now they won't be relevant today, due to the fact that the system isn't fully there. But once you have active data coming through, you'll be able to see the history. So this will show you when people on your list have come through and they've been approved. This will also show you if any credentials have expired. If you have anyone on your restricted list, you can see that here. And then if you have anyone who is deleted, this means that you actually manually remove them. You'll see them here. Though this section says vendors, you can ignore it for your use case. This is just for community-wide vendors if they have access to a property, and I don't believe that applies in your use case. That being said, that is the majority of the overview. Now, before I jump into Q&As, I do know a few things that come up from time to time that I'll discuss first. So again, I mentioned any multi-site marked vehicles like USPS, UPS, etc. Those are going to be allowed in as a community rule. Another topic though that comes up a lot is Ubers and rental vehicles. So a lot of people do use Uber and Lyft nowadays. If you are someone who uses it occasionally, so we're just talking once in a blue moon, maybe a couple times a year, my recommendation for you is to utilize the temporary vendor passes or visitor passes, your choice. But I would generally do the temporary vendor one time 24/7. That way they can come get you at any time or bring you home at any time. That way it's saved. What's nice about doing it this way is Uber always gives you the license plate of the person coming to pick you up or drop you off. So you can actually add that pass in and they would be able to just utilize the automatic license plate recognition and be let in. Of course, the worst case scenario is that they can stop at the kiosk and you'll receive a phone call. Now, of course, if you're in the vehicle and they're bringing you home, if you stop at the kiosk, you can also mention as the resident that you live there and present your ID, and they will allow you in as well. So there's a few options there. That being said, with rental vehicles, we do understand that there are times where you will have to utilize a rental vehicle. We don't recommend this for a long-term solution, but you can add your rental vehicle in as a guest for under yourself. Just keep in mind that um, you'll want to remove that when you no longer have the rental. So that way, if that rental is ever in someone else's possession, they do not have access to your community. That being said, keep in mind that the license plate recognition is for your visitors only. The main reason is the feature is there for a way to help deal with the stacking that can take place at the kiosk and just help expedite entry for your guests. You as residents have your windshield stickers, the infrared tags. Those are the most reliable way for you to get in, and we would never want to jeopardize the chance that like someone's just blocking the camera view from you or whatever other thing there could be. So in your case, you will still use the access you already have and have always used. This is just ways to help expedite your visitor entry to get them to you faster and more efficiently. That being said, I'm going to review. I see there's a couple entries here on the chat and Q&A. I did see one from chat before we started. I just didn't get to read it. So let's see here. David Fisher asked, can you tell us how to remove and add an occupant owner in the presentation? A renter was added to our portal as an occupant owner, and my wife was not added as an owner. All right, so David, in that situation, I think I alluded to it a little, but just to be very clear for your answer, when it comes to owners and tenants specifically, those are going to be handled from your property manager, in this case, Aaron Rose. Though that's how they get added into the system. You yourself cannot add another owner or tenant. You can add associated residents. If you do need for these two scenarios, so if the renter was added in error, you can reach out to Aaron. That can be adjusted. They can always move them to the correct property if it's not yours, or whatever is necessary there. As for your wife not being labeled, if she is a owner and you want her to be presented as such, just reach out to Erin again. What she can do is remove and re-add her under the owner type. The best way to reach out, I mean, if you have a contact Erin directly, that's great. But you can also submit a ticket related to this. In this scenario, I would do submit ticket. Um, it's a little more complex, so I would probably actually just put this under miscellaneous, other update, and then just be descriptive here in the field. Pretty much stating what you did is fine, but I would just make sure to put names so anyone who is assisting you can easily find that information. So as to how to edit that, unfortunately, the timeline, I'm not sure when that was, but someone did clarify, yes, you can click edit. That was probably during the My Account stage. But yes, any pages that you're on that you're going to make a change, whether that's on a visitor, like here we'll click into Chris. You'll see that there's the pencil with the edit in the top right, and then there'd be a save afterwards. So if you make any changes, make sure to save. And that also applies in the My Account section. Will each occupant owner be able to register their own cell phone numbers and have their own account for access? My wife and I are there at different times and we'll have our own visitors. She needs to have the ability to enter visitors and be notified. Yes. So as alluded to up before with, actually, I think this you're up, you are the same individual. My apologies. So yeah, just like before, if you need to get your wife added as an owner for an account, And again, that's if you want them listed as an owner. Associated residents can also have a visitor list, but if they are on the deed, I would recommend keeping it clerically correct. Um, but yes, you would just have them create an account. In this case, again, you can reach out to Erin to get the account made for her, get her settings and everything. And I would just recommend when we went to that notification section, just make sure you check that first box, the one that actually I'll go back to it, but the one that goes over receiving notifications for any visitors at the property. This one right here. That way you can get each other's notifications for your guests if you want. I would assume though, based off of the wording, that you might want that. Yes, Jennifer, you will not see the app for Proptia in the App Store if you were on iPhone. I alluded to this at the start. You may have not transferred over yet, so I'll revisit. Due to Apple Store new constraints, in short, they can't put the app as a searchable one, but you can still get to it with the link. That does come to you in the welcome email. But I will also put a link to that here and show you how to find it. So if we go to the help section, there's the quick start guide, which will bring you here. And you'll see a link here for Apple or Android to download the app, and we can click on the Apple one. If you click on this in your phone, it'll bring you to it um, as well. That way you can download the app. Oh, this is 2.0s. I apologize. You need 1.0s. Let me get that for you. I'll put this in the chat. Let's see here. Here it is. Let me send this. I'll place this in the chat for you. Oh, Aaron says she sent out the link as well. But again, I will make sure that I have it here for you. But again, this is going to be for the app to download. Again, this only applies for iOS. Again, it's just an Apple thing. Google may change their store policies in the future, but at this time, it is available in the Play Store just from searching. But with iOS devices, this is for iPad or iPhone. Just use this link to get to the app. Let's see. The associate only allowed me to be on for a year. Not sure on the question there. With that, but with when it comes to your associated residents, those are not temporary. Associated residents are tied to you to the owner that they are under. So if I was to go say make a associated resident right now and add this person would stay on my account under me until I'm not here anymore. They can be migrated from person to person at the request with the property management and admin team. But in a general sense, you can think of it like a folder, right? So if I'm the main folder, I have my associated residents, my guests, everything is inside of my folder. So that way, if I move out or leave, it's tied to me. But owners for that are separate, right? They're not together in the same folder. So they are complete separate entities in that form. I think there was one in the Q&A section. Now, while I'm reviewing these, by the way, if anyone would prefer to ask their question, I understand that people do like to talk. You can use the hand raise feature if you'd like. What I'll do is allow you to unmute your mic, and then you'll be able to unmute and ask your question. No pressure to do so. I just want to make sure that people know the options there if they didn't want to type their question. So Mike here, you say download the app. It says help with my name and property address or property address, but no dashboard. So you need to select your property once you log in. It's set up that way because there are instances where people own multiple properties, or they might be in multiple communities with multiple properties. So you'll see all of your options listed. So to clarify a little bit on something I said prior, I see from here from Erin, so I'll reiterate this for everyone. Um, she says, please make sure spouses and children are associated residents. There should only be one owner per account, so we don't have confusion. Each home should have one main owner and as many associated residents as you want or need. So a small change before, and I apologize for that, Aaron. Um, from what I said before to you, you should have your own account and then add your wife in this case as an associated resident. But they can still have their own list and do things as we discussed. Just make sure that when you go to their settings, you make sure that you have allow user to have a visitor list checked. I would recommend having both in this case for that person. But this would mean that they can have their own guest list and add to the one for the property. You're welcome. That being said, at this time, is all I had in terms of the overview and the Q&A. Oh, okay. I was going to say if anyone has questions, I'm not rushing away. So feel free if you're in the middle of typing one to do so. But if you feel you're all set, you do not need to stay. But I will still stay here to answer questions that people have. Oh, I saw you raise your hand, Kenley. Are you all set? Because it went down. I'll unmute you just in case that was accidental, or allow your mic just in case that was accidental. But if you do have your question, feel free to ask it. You do have the power to unmute if you need to. Yep, Kenley, I do have you have the ability to unmute. You will have to unmute yourself. Um, but you have the ability to unmute now. You should see a little microphone icon. Looks like a boom mic with a cross through it. You should be able to just tap that to unmute yourself. And then you can go ahead and ask your question.
Okay.
I can
Are
hear
you
you.
there? Okay. If I have a vendor coming, like say for air conditioning checkup every quarter, do I just put them down then as permanent? So all my vendors, I can just permanently have them come at their scheduled times?
Yeah, I would recommend if you have something that's that, consistent, I would put them in as a permanent because I would consider that a constant visitor, even if
So like,
it's, got delays in it.
so it's pest control, Culligan Water, they all just, I have to enter those in as all permanent people then, so, okay.
Yep, permanent vendors. Yep.
Okay.
And just make sure as you're going through that you put that company name because it's the most important part for the vendor, right?
Yeah.
Especially the ones you mentioned, they're going to have a different vehicle most likely. So, did you have any other questions?
No,
All right. I think another chat might have come through. Oh, no, just a thank you. All right. So again, if you guys are all set, feel free to depart. I do appreciate your time. Sorry about again the confusion at the beginning with a extra meeting link. Thank you though for being able to get over here relatively promptly so we could get through this. But if you do have any questions, again, I'm not going to rush. So if you are in the middle of typing something, I'll still wait around to answer for a few minutes. But otherwise, yes, I will send this to you afterwards, Aaron. Absolutely. Otherwise, again, thank you for attending. We do appreciate your time and we're excited to be moving forward with you guys. We're always here, so feel free to again use that submit ticket option if you do have questions. If that's a new question, Kenley, you can go ahead and ask.
yeah, oh, yes. What date of the email was that welcome one sent to go through and enter that?
So we send them out periodically. Once we from the first one, just so it stays fresh. I think the most recent one went out. It was either no, I think it was yesterday morning. As the most recent, but we'll be sending another one out on Friday. We basically just Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We're going to be pressing the button. It'll only go to people who haven't registered yet, so it won't
Nope.
spam those that have already done so.
Okay, thanks.
No problem. All right. And with that, I'll be ending the meeting. Have a great day, everyone.